Hey, good evening. This is Dennis. Lately, my last three or four covers have been by John Prine, and I've had some inquiries from subscribers and comments left if I could produce an overview of John Prine's finger-picking style. And the really neat thing about John Prine's music is its simplicity, both lyrically and musically. And yet, his three or four chord song is all you need to know, three or four chords per song. He puts those chords in such a progression to emote some real emotions, especially when he combines it with his lyrics. But anyway, John Prine's music is a gold mine, a reservoir of songs for beginners to attempt to play. You don't need to read sheet music. You don't need to read tabs. This is a self-taught guitarist's dream. For each song, you maybe have to learn three or four chords, and then you have to learn this pattern that I'm going to teach you. Now, before we proceed, I just wanted to mention that I'll be leaving some links in the description below to take you to some of those earlier tutorials that I produced on how to Travis pick that will show you the pattern in slow motion. And although each of those tutorials is repetitive in nature just because we're teaching you how to fingerpick, each one of them has something unique to them as well that you might find interesting. So look at as many of those as you can. So I'll also leave some cards at the top along the way of this tutorial for you to tap if those subject matters seem of interest to you. John Prine, in my opinion, is a Travis picker. Some purists may disagree because he doesn't palm mute the bass strings like some profess you have to do. He doesn't get real fancy with the high notes or the melody line portion. He sticks to a pattern that you just repeat over and over again for each measure. In my humble opinion, I believe that the hallmark of Travis picking is the alternating bass for each chord that drives the song. As long as you do that, it's called Travis picking in my book. And one of the advantages to this technique by sticking to the pattern is when you change chords, your bass notes are automatically included in those changes, as well as the melody line from the higher strings. You'll see what I mean. I thought as an example to illustrate John Prine's simplistic approach to fingerpicking his songs, I'd play the first verse and first chorus to his song, Sam Stone, incidentally one of the greatest protest songs ever written, particularly war protest songs, in 1971 from his first album, John Prine. And then when we're finished playing that, we'll break it down and show you how you, a late beginner or early intermediate guitar player, can almost play any one of John Prine's songs. Sam Stone came home to his wife and family after serving in conflict overseas. And the time that he served had shattered all his nerves and left a little shrapnel in his knee. But the morphine eased his pain, and the grass grew round his brain and gave him all the confidence he lacked. With a purple heart and a monkey on his back, there's a hole in Daddy's arm where all the money goes. Jesus Christ died for nothing, I suppose. Little pitchers have big ears, don't stop to count the years. sweet songs never last too long on broken radios. These finger-picking patterns are sometimes plucked on just 4 strings, like shown in the above guitar, like for a D chord or D minor, D7th, where the bass note is on the D string. After you learn that, you learn it on a 5-string pattern, like for a C major chord or an A minor chord, where the bass note is on that 5th string. That's the only thing that's different in the pattern, is the first downbeat. And then for a 6th string chord, it's the same pattern, essentially played on the 4 high strings, but the bass note is plucked on the 6th string with the high E string at the same time, that pinch on the first downbeat. Now, I suggest we learn the 4-string Travis picking pattern. For example, on this D minor chord that we find in the song Sam Stone, the first downbeat is plucking of that bass note, the D string, along with the high E string, the first string, together at the same time. I call that a pinch on downbeat 1. And then that internal rolling you see in red, where the thumb and the index finger pluck the inside strings of those 4, and then the thumb and the middle finger pluck the outer strings of those 4, and then the measure completed with that thumb on the G string. In fact, that's how all of the measures end, is with that thumb on the G string on downbeat 4. Now, on a 6-string finger-picking pattern, for example on a G chord or an E minor chord shown here, where that open 6th string is the bass note, that finger-picking pattern will look something like this. I think it's best to learn this finger-picking pattern first on the 4-string chord, like the D chord, because it's just played on 4 strings. The bass note is the D string for the D chord. So that pattern is played pinch, inner strings with the thumb and the index finger, outer strings with the thumb and the middle finger, and then end it with the thumb on the G. That's how every measure ends, is with that thumb on the G string. Just like that. Pinch, inners, outers, G string, pinch, inners, outers, G string, pinch, inners, outers, G string. start out slow. Speed will come naturally as you assign this pattern to muscle memory. If you repeat anything often enough, it becomes ingrained. And after that, you can play it unconsciously. Now, for the 5-string chord, like the C, it's the same pattern. It essentially revolves around these high strings, but now the C chord has this C on the 5th string as its bass note. So we're going to pluck it and the high E string together on the first downbeat, and then the inners and the outers, and then the G string. So and then for the 6th string chord, like a G, the bass notes will be, the alternating bass notes will be the G note on the 6th string and the D string, the open D string. So a few things that John Prine may alter. For example, in the beginning of Sam Stone, I've seen him start it like this. In the it's in C, so he'll start. Sam Stone came home to his wife. So he'll do it like that, of just one measure, and then the bass run. I've also seen him start the song by playing a full 3-chord progression of the verse before starting that bass run and beginning the song, like this. Something else you'll notice about John Prine, when he sings, sometimes he doesn't play the full pattern. He may even only play the alternating bass notes and just one finger of the pattern. And when there are no lyrics, you'll notice that he's playing most of the pattern. Observe here. Sam Stone came home to his wife and family after serving in the conflict overseas. And the time that he served shattered all his nerves and left a little shrapnel in his knee. Something like that. And then the other thing that I like about John Prine when he ends his song, it's a simple playing of the chord that the song is in the key of. So for example, he'll end this song, Sam Stone, just by strumming, lightly strumming that song a little slower at the end. Once you learn this pattern, another thing that John Prine does is he may take that pattern and move it up one string and play it, for example, on the bottom 5 strings and exclude that high E string, like this. Like that. So I hope what I was able to impart to you today is that John Prine songs are relatively easy to play once you learn this finger picking pattern. And if you're actually more of a beginner than an intermediate player, please refer to my tutorials on how to Travis pick. And they're really designed for beginners. So try those first. And I'll leave links in the description below. And like I say, cards at the top that you can click on that'll help you learn this finger picking technique. So John Prine was an amazing singer, songwriter. We were all saddened by his premature departure. I mean, the man was active all the way to the end in songwriting, in appearances, in touring. And we're all saddened by his departure, but he left us a plethora of songs, simple songs that you should really give an honest attempt at. So until next time, I hope this tutorial helped you, and we'll see you next time. Have a wonderful evening.